or Water Quality Assessment section of the Water Quality Division, and I am going to be your moderator for today's meeting. If you don't already have an agenda, meeting agenda handy, hopefully there will be a one posted or attached to the chat momentarily if you want to follow along with that. And I will go around and introduce the other TCEQ presenters here momentarily, but just wanted to remind folks, and as far as how we typically do these meetings, once we get into the topics of our meeting, we'll present each topic, and at the end of the presentation, we'll pause for any questions that you might have. Given that we're doing this virtually through Teams Live today, unfortunately, you'll have to type in your questions in the chat box, and we will respond to them as they are received. Because we won't have audio enabled for those of you in the audience, so we'll have to do, or you'll have to do your questions through the chat, and we'll respond verbally to each one. And then, of course, at the very end, after all the topics have been presented, we'll pause again for questions in case any come to mind during the course of the meeting that you didn't get in earlier. So that's kind of the basic format of the meeting. We'll be presenting several updates of permitting related, rulemaking related, otherwise. So again, before we get into it, I'll have each of the other TCEQ presenters introduce themselves, and we'll go in the order that they'll be presenting on our agenda. So if each presenter could please just turn on your camera momentarily as you can, and just tell us who you are and which program you're with, and I'd appreciate it. So we'll start with Nikita.
Okay. Hello, my name's Nikita. I usually go by Nikki. I am a permit writer on the industrial wastewater team.
Thanks, Nikki. Maria.
Hello, my name is Maria. I'm at the Water Quality Division level technical specialist, and I normally work with the Homeland Security team or outreach efforts.
Thank you, Maria. Monica, you're up next.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, I'm Monica Alba Garcia, and I'm a permit writer with the stormwater team.
Thank you, Monica. Hannah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hannah Kobos, and I'm also a permit writer on the stormwater team.
Thank you. Jesse.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jesse Salamia. I'm also a permit writer with the stormwater team.
Great, thanks. Rebecca.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rebecca Villalba, and I am the team leader for the stormwater team in the Water Quality Division.
Thanks, Rebecca. And just so you don't think I'm sliding Brian Sarant, he's actually, I'm going to be covering his topic today, so he's not going to be one of the presenters, even though it says as much on your agenda. So so now we got the introductions out of the way. We'll go ahead and start with our diving into our topics. We'll have several permitting program specific updates to give you, and Nikki will start out with those.
Okay, right. So I'm just going to be going over some oil and gas general permit talking points. So a little bit of background information is that TCEQ was transferred permitting authority for discharges into surface water in the state for oil and gas extraction facilities and gas plants by House Bill 2771 during the 2018 legislative session. TCEQ obtained TIPD's authorization from EPA on January 2021 via a revised memorandum of agreement. TCEQ did not obtain authority for land application or reuse. These remained under the Railroad Commission of Texas's authority. So the general permit for hydrostatic discharges, which is TXG 670,000, was amended and reissued to include crude oil and natural gas hydrostatic test discharges. TCEQ has developed 2 general permits for oil and gas extraction facilities discharges into surface waters of the state. So those are going to be TXG 310,000 under the TIPDs program and WQG 280000 under state-only authority. So TXG 310,000 replaces EPA's general permits. So TXG 260,000 and TXG 330,000 and individual railroad commission authorizations. WQG 280,000 will replace individual railroad commission permit authorizations. So a little bit about our implementation activities is TXG 310,000, which includes onshore stripper well facilities, coastal facilities, and territorial seas facilities in the Gulf of Mexico within 3 miles of the Texas coastline. So what that does is it combines and replaces NIPD's general permit number TXG 260,000 and TXG 330,000, both of which were administratively continued. TCEQ shared the draft GP with stakeholders for review and comments. TCEQ reviewed all comments received. TCEQ submitted the draft GP to EPA Region 6 for a 90-day review on August 2nd, 2022. EPA completed its review on November 14th, 2022. TCEQ received no objections and minor suggestions, and EPA issued the TCEQ, approved the TCEQ issuance of that GP. So the statewide public notice in the Texas Register and statewide circulation in newspapers occurred on May 12, 2023, with a formal 30-day comment period. That comment period ended on June 12, 2023. And then the development of TXG 310,000 NOI, NOC, and NOT forms were completed. The commission adopted and issued the permit on January 10th, 2024. And so we're going to go down to WQG 280,000, which is the Outer Continental Shelf Facilities, which is between 3 and 10.2 miles of the Texas coastline in the Gulf of Mexico. Just to note that TCEQ does not have authority to regulate these discharges under the federal TIPDs program. A separate federal authorization for these facilities is required from EPA under GMG 290,000 GP. The TCEQ state-only GP authorizes discharges to surface waters in the Gulf of Mexico. WQG 280,000 was drafted, developed in coordination with EPA Region 6's renewal of their equivalent of permit, which is NIPD's GMG 290,000. The timeline for this GP is paired up with TXG 31 since the state-only GP is not subject to EPA review and approval. It was released for stakeholder input back in December of 2022 via the Water Quality Advisory Work Group. The informal comment period ended on January 18th of 2023. Development of GMG 280,000 NOI, NOC, and NOT forms were completed, and the commission adopted and issued that permit on January 10th, 2024. So currently, oil and gas authorizations issued are pending. We have 70 general permits for hydrostatic test discharges under TXG 670,000, 21 general permits for oil and gas extraction discharges under TXG 310,000, 6 general permits for oil and gas outer continental shelf discharges, which is WQG 280,000, 9 individual oil and gas TIPDs permits, and we have 8 pending individual oil and gas TIPDs permit applications.
All right, thank you, Nikki. Again, if there are any questions on what Nikki just touched on, please type your question into the chat and we'll respond accordingly. And we'll do the same routine on all the other topics that we're about to cover. And in case anyone's thinking about questions, I do want to apologize. I completely skipped over Shannon Gibson during the introduction section. So if you'll allow me just to pause and give her chance to introduce herself real quick, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shannon Gibson with the Water Quality Division. I'm a technical specialist for the division. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Shannon. Sorry again about that. Okay, I guess there is one question for Nikki here that I'm seeing. Can you repeat how many permits have been issued under TXG 310,000? Thank you.
Okay, yes, that's going to be 21.
All right, 21 authorizations. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next topic, which is Homeland Security, and I'll turn it over to Maria.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right. As we approach the start of the hurricane season later this year, I want to emphasize on the importance of preparation and readiness. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, the Water Quality Division specifically, is counting on your assistance to ensure we're all prepared for this season. To that end, we're asking permitted wastewater treatment facilities to update your Homeland Security contacts and verify all other information within the Water Quality Emergency Preparedness module and STEERS. As you may know, this information is crucial for our emergency preparedness and response efforts. Please note that within the next week, or rather from today into next week, you should be receiving an annual update request for each of your permitted facilities. Updates will need to be submitted through the online STEERS e-permitting system using the Water Quality Emergency Preparedness System module by March 3rd of 2025. It is essential that you submit your updates annually, including information about your wastewater permits and their emergency contacts. This ensures that the Water Quality Division has the most up-to-date information, especially to prepare for hurricane season and other disaster events. Just some tips when updating your records. Please ensure that you review and update your emergency contact information, including the cell phone numbers and email addresses. If you have completed the annual updates through STEERS in previous years, you will be able to have a fast track, or rather to apply a sort of fast track update before submission. So any information that you've already provided in previous years, you should be able to re-access if it's still up to date and current. And therefore, all you would need to revise is any kind of changes that have occurred at your facilities. Provide accurate front gate latitude and longitude coordinates. These are also very crucial as we do use GIS to ensure that we're providing appropriate assistance. Log into STEERS to update your application throughout the year if you have any contacts that change. So once you complete your submission during this time frame, if anything does change later on in the year, you will be able to update anything that changes later on after the March 3rd due date that we're providing. And lastly, the Water Quality Division also offers a YouTube video. It's essentially an instructional guide to walk you through the process of creating a STEERS account and filling out the WQEPS, or the Water Quality Emergency Preparedness module in STEERS. We do also provide it basically goes through like frequently asked questions that we have also received in the past. So that YouTube video would be of great use to you if you do opt to use it. Lastly, again, if you do have any questions or need assistance, please don't hesitate to contact us. We're more than ready to answer any of your questions. You can call us at 512-239-4671 and you can ask for me, for Maria, or you can email our inbox at homeland@tceq.texas.gov, and we'll provide any additional assistance through there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Again, if anyone has any questions on Maria's topic, please type those into the chat, and we'll address them as they come in. I'm not seeing any currently at the moment. So, and again, if we don't get to your questions, or you're not able to type in or think of your questions right away, again, just a reminder, we've got another formal Q&A session at the end of the meeting. So we can catch you then as well. So, all right. Next up, we've got several general permit updates to provide for you. It appears like they're all stormwater related. So we'll start with the Corps' general permit update from Monica.
Hi. Good afternoon. Thank you, Greg. So the quarries, I'm going to talk about the quarries in certain water quality protection areas, general permit number, TXG 500,000, the 2025 renewal with amendment. This began in early 2023. The TCEQ started the renewal process for the general permit, previously known as the John Graves Quarries General Permit. It renewed this year, 2025, and was presented and adopted at the Commissioner's agenda on January 16th, 2025. The general permit will be signed this week. Existing permittees that are on administrative continuance will have 90 days from the effective date of the general permit to submit their application for permit renewal. The renewed 2025 general permit regulates stormwater and wastewater discharges from quarries in the John Graves Scenic Riverway, and now also the Coke Stevenson Scenic Riverway. The renewal process was delayed due to the implementation of House Bill 1688 during the 88th regular legislative session, which amended Texas Water Code Chapter 26, Subchapter M, Water Quality Protection Areas, by expanding the pilot program that was originally established for the John Graves Scenic Riverway in the Brazos River Basin to include the new Coke Stevenson Scenic Riverway within the Colorado River Basin. The Coke Stevenson Scenic Riverway is defined in the bill as the South Lawton River in Kimball County, located upstream of the river's confluence with the North Lawton River at the city of Junction. The major changes to this general permit include renaming the general permit to the Quarries and Certain Water Quality Protection Areas General Permit, adding a definition for Coke Stevenson Scenic Riverway, and modify the existing definition of water quality protection areas to encompass the new water quality protection areas of the Coke Stevenson Scenic Riverway. We also modified permit applicability language to encompass quarries within the new water quality protection areas of the Coke Stevenson Scenic Riverway and expand the permitting and financial assurance requirements for those quarries. And lastly, we modified permit expiration language to explain since the pilot program is extended 2 years, now expires on September 1st, 2027. And those are the updates for the Quarries General Permit. I don't see any questions, but if you have any questions later on today, please put them in the chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Monica. Appreciate it. And I'll now turn it over to Hannah for an MSGP update.
Thank you, Greg. So today I'm going to talk about the multi-sector general permit 2025 amendment without renewal. And this is the general permit number TXR 050,000. This is different than the renewal of the MSGP, which Jesse will be talking about later on in this meeting. So for context, this general permit regulates stormwater discharges from industrial activities and is set to expire on August 14th of 2026. We recently initiated an amendment without renewal to the MSGP to address the two following items: to implement House Bill 1688 from the 88th regular legislative session, which was made effective on September 1st of 2023, in order to prohibit quarries located within water quality protection areas from obtaining stormwater coverage under this general permit, and also to implement House Bill 2771 from the 86th regular legislative session, which was made effective on January 15th of 2021, to expand the applicability for non-exempt oil and gas activities. And currently, the general permit excludes stormwater runoff from industrial activities that are associated with the exploration, development, or production of oil or gas or geothermal resources, including the transportation of crude oil or natural gas by pipeline. This revision is in response to the transfer of state and federal regulatory authority to TCEQ for these discharges. The purpose of the amendment is to, again, prohibit quarries located within the new Coke Stevens Scenic Riverway from obtaining stormwater coverage under the MSGP, and also to include in the general permit applicable non-exempt stormwater discharges from industrial activities that are associated with these oil and gas activities. And lastly, to replace the EPA issued NIPD's MSGP TXR 05F000, which was made effective on September 29th of 2021 and is set to expire on February 28th of 2026. Proposed changes include revising these limitations on permit coverage to include that quarries that are located within the new Coke Stevenson Scenic Riverway are not authorized the discharge of stormwater runoff. Also to include the expansion of the applicability of the general permit, again, to include those non-exempt stormwater discharges from industrial activities associated with crude oil and natural gas exploration, development, and production. Also to specify that operators that have active authorizations under the existing general permit, which again was made effective in August of 2021, will not be required to submit new or renewal NOIs or notice of intent applications and are authorized to continue to discharge under the terms and conditions of the existing general permit. Operators that are authorized currently under EPA's issued NIPD's MSGP will be required to obtain authorization under TCEQ's amended general permit within 90 days of the effective date of the amended general permit. We sent the draft general permit documents to EPA for their review in April of 2024, and we received EPA's approval on June 23rd of 2024 with no comments received. Therefore, we published the public notice in the Texas Register and the Houston Chronicle on October 11th of 2024 for the 30-day public comment period, which ended on November 11th of 2024. No comments were received. So we are tentatively scheduled to take the amended general permit to Commissioner's agenda for adoption on May 1st of 2025. Again, please note that this permit amendment will not have any impact on existing permittees, and the expiration date of the multi-sector general permit will not change. Existing permittees will continue to operate under the terms and conditions of TCEQ's existing 2021 MSGP. And those are all of the updates I have, and I am available to answer any questions if there are any.
Thanks, Hannah. Not seeing any questions at the moment. Appreciate the update. And to give the second MSGP update, I'll give it over to Jesse.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jesse again with the Stormwater Permitting Team, and I wanted to give a few updates on the Multi-Sector General Permit 2026 renewal. This general permit regulates stormwater discharges from industrial activities and expires on August 14th of 2026. TCEQ has initiated the 2026 renewal of the general permit and is currently in the concept or the developmental phase of the general permit renewal process. TCEQ held a stakeholder meeting to discuss upcoming renewal on November 6th of 2024 and received comment from stakeholders until November 20th of 2024. TCEQ is scheduled to send the draft general permit for EPA review in May 2025. Some of the major proposed changes that we have made for the MSGP include the removal of SIC 12 31 as it relates to anthracite mining in Pennsylvania, the option to maintain an electronic stormwater pollution prevention plan, clarification in text in Part 2, Section C, subsection 9, to state that additional notification is required for any MS4s that are receiving discharge from a permitted facility. We are also moving the SIC sector table from Part 2 to now be included as an appendix item. Other changes include the following benchmark levels: lowering phosphorus from a 0.78 concentration to a 1.25, or it's currently 1.25, and we're lowering it to 0.78. This will be effective for all sectors that are required to monitor. We've also proposed to lower ammonia monitoring requirements from 1.7 to 1.0, and this is specific to sectors K and S. We've proposed to lower iron levels from 1.3 to 1.0, and this is for all sectors that are required to monitor. We have proposed to lower cyanide from 0.02 to 0.01. Again, this is for all sectors that are required to monitor. We have proposed to lower nitrate nitrogen from 0.68 to 0.6. Again, this is for all sectors. And finally, we've proposed to lower zinc from the current levels of 0.16 to 0.12. And again, this is for all sectors that are required to monitor. In addition, we've made other clarification to miscellaneous text as well as other editorial changes to the MSGP permit. Please note this renewal is to address the expiration of the general permit and is separate from the amendment to the general permit that is in progress, as mentioned earlier by Hannah. And with that, that is all I have for today. Again, if anybody has any questions, we'll be looking at the chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. And we'll just go ahead and move on to the final general permit update with Rebecca.
Okay, good afternoon. So I'll be giving you an update on the small or the phase 2 municipal separate storm sewer system, or MS4 general permit, TXR 040000, regarding the 2024 renewal that just was completed last year. So the general permit regulates stormwater discharges from smaller phase 2 MS4s. The general permit was issued and made effective August 15 of 2024. So just to bring everybody up to speed in case you've missed it, since we are in the renewal period, the major changes include moving from a 2-step general permit to a comprehensive general permit that meets the federal rule requirements. The master general permit now is prescriptive and includes all the requirements that MS4 operators must implement, and therefore removes the need for MS4 operators to submit an individual stormwater management program, or SWAMP, for review and approval by TCEQ and EPA, and also eliminates the public notice requirements. We added more specific best management practices for BMPs and measurable goals for each minimum control measure, or MCM, to specify the clear, specific, and measurable activities, goals, and deadlines that must be implemented by permittees based on their MS4 level to comply with the now new comprehensive general permit approach. These are represented throughout the permit in the form of tables. Another change that we made is that MCM1 has been separated into 2 separate MCMs. So now MCM1 is public education and outreach, and MCM2 is public involvement and participation. Therefore, the remaining MCMs have been renumbered as MCMs 3 to 8. And this is as a result for us needing to be consistent with the federal regulations in order to fit into the net MS4 system. We also removed the term urbanized area and have replaced it with the term, or with the phrase now, urban areas with a population of at least 50,000 people or more. As a result of the changes by the U.S. Census Bureau and subsequent EPA rulemaking. We also now bring in new regulated MS4s as a result of the 2020 decennial census that were automatically designated by the census results, and now they're that are either fully or partially located within an urban area with a population of at least 50,000 people or more. We're also implementing the electronic reporting for applications and for annual reports to also comply with the federal electronic reporting rule. So now MS4s need to submit their applications using EPA's net MS4 system that has been customized for Texas. For the annual reports, the MS4s are going to need to be submitting their annual reports under this 2024 general permit electronically when the annual reporting piece of net MS4 is ready. So we're currently working with EPA to develop the annual report piece of net MS4. And please, as a reminder, note that the calendar year now has been chosen as a reporting period because this is what the majority of the MS4s already are implementing, and we needed to be consistent with the net MS4 system, which only allows for one reporting schedule. Existing and new small MS4s that have been automatically designated by the 2020 census need to seek coverage under the general permit, and the deadline is February 11, 2025. Again, the applications need to be submitted electronically through the net MS4 system. Small Business and Local Government Assistance has developed a stormwater management program template that is available on our stormwater web pages for everybody to use. Although the template is specifically designed for level 1 and 2 MS4s, as they are by far the majority of the regulated universe. However, this template may be utilized by all MS4 operators by including additional BMP requirements for each MCM as necessary based on levels 3 and 4. So this template is available and can be used by everybody. Regarding the annual report, we have several questions that keep coming in for the 2019 general permit. So that could be year 5, year 6, or year 7, depending on where the MS4 has, what the MS4 has for the annual reporting period. Some of them are having a year 7. So under the 2019 general permit, those annual reports need to be continued to be submitted by paper and following the schedules defined in the 2019 general permit. Existing small MS4s must continue to implement any ongoing items in the most recently approved TCEQ swamp until a renewal authorization is submitted and approved by TCEQ electronically now in the net MS4 system under the 2024 general permit. Year 1 of the annual report under the renewed 2024 general permit will begin when authorization is approved. Annual reports due by March 31st of 2026, meaning next year, not this March, but next year, will be based on when the NOI was submitted and required to be submitted, and they are going to be required to be submitted electronically in net MS4 system. TCEQ anticipates hosting a training webinar together with EPA for small MS4s on how to submit annual reports using the net MS4 system that we hope will be finished later on this year. We have training and resources available for everybody. We had a training specifically on how to use NetMS4, how to create your Central Data Exchange or CDX account, how to get in to NetMS4. We did a demo of what the application looks like. That was held on September 17. And we also did a virtual technical training, one that was focused more on the general permit requirements, the technical training that was held on November 12, 2024. The recordings for both of these training webinars are available to view at TCEQ's YouTube channel. So those are accessible through our YouTube channel, as well as through our SBLGA and Stormwater web pages. Something that I do want to mention, as we say, right now, NetMS4 is available. People are applying. People are asking for user permissions. We do want to make sure that you understand that user permissions in NetMS4 need to comply with the rule requirements that are in 30 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 305.44a. We are getting a lot of requests to sign an application from people whose titles do not qualify under this rule. So we are denying those. So please work within your MS4 entity, whether it be a city, county, a district, and make sure that the signatory that submits a user permission request meets the rule requirements. Also, when you go to NetMS4, if you cannot find your MS4, if you're already an existing MS4 and you cannot find your MS4 name or entity in the community section, please submit a new MS4 request to us and we will be happy to go ahead and add you. Please note that if conditions have changed since the last time you had either a waiver or an NOI with us, and now your application type needs to be changed, please send an email to our Stormwater General Permit mailbox. That is swg.tceq.texas.gov. We will need to move you because right now entities are either in the NOI application bucket or under the waiver application bucket. And so if you need to be moved from one bucket to the other, please let us know through that email and we will gladly move you based on your uniqueness or conditions that have changed. That is the update for the MS4 general permit. I'm available for questions.
Thanks, Rebecca. There are a couple of MS4 related questions. Well, few now, and one MSGP question that we'll get back to after the MS4 ones since we're on the topic. So the first one is, where can we see the rule/requirements of who can be the signatory in net MS4?
Hannah, can you, Hannah's well versed with the module. I think it's not until you are signing that it pops out and gives you a dialog box and saying, are you sure that you meet these requirements? Is that correct, Hannah? Is that the first time you can see it?
Yes, but I also put the regulation in the chat just so people can look at that specific language.
All right, thanks, Hannah. Yeah, it's 30 TAC, chapter 305.44A is where you can find those requirements. Appreciate that. Let's see. So next question on the MS4s. I want to confirm that we paid the correct amount for the MS4 NOI application. We submitted an e-payment through Steers for $322.34, but I noticed the application cost is listed as $400. Could you help clarify the $77.66 discrepancy? We were not alerted to $400.
So yes, the application fee is $400. That is in the permit. It is also listed in the NOI, but we were, somebody else had this concern. They brought it to us a couple of weeks ago where they couldn't find the $400 fee. They found the $300 fee. So it is based on how you are selecting when you go to ePay, and I don't have it with me, but Hannah, again, I'm not sure if I copied, you're included in that email where we sent the response to somebody already letting them know what they needed to be selecting. So it's the way you selected, instead of selecting the MS4 Phase 2 general permit, you selected a different option. So we will put that in the chat or send it to you, Deanna, if you can send us an email. If you don't respond to you in the chat right now, please send us an email to SWGP mailbox and we will send you the proper way that you need to go about in ePay to obtain the right $400 application.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. And again, sticking with the MS4 questions for now, but we will circle back on those that are asking about MSGP momentarily. How long are approvals taking in net MS4?
Which approvals are you asking about? Are you talking about the user permissions or the actual NOI applications? For the user permissions, right now it is taking, sometimes that same day or a couple of days, depending on the issue. Some MS4s, the signatory, like I said, is not working. Is not the right one, so we're denying them. So that sometimes takes a couple of days until we get the right signatory to come in. But right now, we're pretty much every day we are approving user permissions. Now, regarding the NOIs, I haven't checked today, but as of last week, we only had about 7 or 8 NOIs that had been submitted. So we still have not reviewed and approved any applications. We're working on the user permission request and helping people navigate through the system as they're working to submit their NOIs.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. I'm not sure if this is MS4 related, but I'll go ahead and ask it. What email do we need to contact to be moved from waiver to SWMP/NOI?
The SWGP email that has been posted right now in the chat is swgp@tcq.texas.gov. Or or Hannah's also provided her personal email address. Right now, she's the one that is moving people from one bucket to the other.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. Let's see. Will phase 1 and other individual MS4 permits eventually be integrated with net MS4?
Not at this time. We are looking at the annual reporting piece for the phase ones to be incorporated into net MS4, because as you know, the federal rules require that all applications for general permits and all annual reports for the stormwater program need to be submitted electronically by December 16th of 2025. So we are working with EPA to see how we can bring in the phase 1 annual reports to the EPA system, but not for the individual permits. The individual permits will continue, as far as I know, through the process that we currently are working on. Of course, the division has implemented that applications need to be submitted electronically, but it's not an electronic process for everything yet.
Okay, appreciate that. Another follow-up question. Can you repeat, Rebecca, what you just said? Did you say you are not approving NOIs yet to prioritize user permissions?
Correct. I mean, right now we have, like I said, we've only received, like before Christmas, we only had 1 NOI that was submitted. And then when we came back the first 2 weeks of January, we received like 6 more NOIs. So right now we're not working on those, actively. We're working on the user permissions, but we will be working on those applications in the next coming weeks. But the user permissions right now are a priority because we want to make sure that everybody has the right user permission so you can access NetMS4 and submit the application by the deadline.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to circle back to a couple of MSGP questions. I don't know if it'll be for you, Rebecca, or one of your staff, but first question, EPA just recently provided their draft stormwater MSGP for public comment, which includes quarterly stormwater indicator or report-only PFAS monitoring for most sectors. Will TCEQ follow suit?
At this time, we are not proposing to follow suit.
All right. And then the other MSGP question I saw, does TCEQ plan to include PFAS monitoring using method 1633 in the upcoming MSGP?
At this time, TCEQ is not proposing or planning to do that. Of course, that is what we are planning or proposing, but I don't want to say never ever, because of course, EPA can come up with rules in the meantime while we're working on the renewal that could change that, or EPA could have comments when they review their permit that may require us to do certain things. But again, our practice is that unless it's in a rule and required by a rule, TCEQ usually does not follow everything that EPA has in their MSGP or their other permits. Sometimes we do include certain things that we feel might make sense to clarify something or to make something a little bit more enforceable because it was just worded a certain way. But again, if it's not in the rule, it's really not something that we plan to follow suit.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment, so appreciate your information. And Hannah, appreciate your info that you're adding to the chat as well. And thanks for everyone's questions. At this point, I'll go back to the agenda topics and say that I probably should have said earlier that Rebecca was not the last GP update. Actually, Shannon has several to give, so I will now turn it over to Shannon.
Thanks, Greg. I do have several general permits to update, so bear with me, y'all. The first is the aquaculture general permit, the TXG 13 or 130000. We're proposing to renew and amend this general permit. It authorizes discharges from aquaculture facilities or discharges related to aquaculture activity. The renewal will replace the current permit when it expires on April 18th, 2026. The draft permit was sent to Texas Parks and Wildlife Department for their 45-day review on January 6th of this year. We anticipate EPA review in March of this year and publication of the public notice in September of this year. The major changes to the draft permit are we excluded level 5 facilities or aquaculture facilities from the prohibition of cleaning the system components in or over water in the state. We also revised the definition of wastewater to include water from the washdown, cleaning, and flushing of sorters and tumblers. These are types of processing equipment that is now commonly used in oyster mariculture. And we also revised the draft permit to clarify that submerged cage systems are included in the allowable systems that may be used in the oyster mariculture. There are other less significant changes proposed to this draft permit, but they will not be listed here. I'm just going to list the significant changes. The next general permit up for renewal with amendment or renewal with update is the hydrostatic test general permit, the TXG 670000. This general permit authorizes the discharge of hydrostatic test water from new vessels which contained raw water, potable water, or elemental gases, or vessels which contain petroleum substances or waste related to petroleum substances. The renewal will replace the current permit when it expires on April 5th, 2025. EPA reviewed and provided approval of the draft general permit on September 19th of last year. TCEQ published notice in the Texas Register and in the Houston Chronicle, and the comment period for the proposed general permit closed on December 9th, 2024. No public comments were received, and the draft permit is scheduled for adoption at the upcoming March 13th, 2025 Commissioner's agenda. The next general permit is the evaporation pond general permit, the WQG 100000. We are proposing to renew and amend this particular general permit, which authorizes the disposal of wastewater from industrial or water treatment facilities by evaporation adjacent to water in the state. This renewal with amendment will replace the current general permit when it expires on September 15th, 2025. It is a state-only general permit that does not require EPA review. TCEQ anticipates publishing notice in the Texas Register and Houston Chronicle on February 7th, 2025, and we anticipate holding a public meeting on March 10th, 2025. Major changes to this general permit include updating the liner requirements for ponds constructed on or after the reissued general permit date. However, I do want to emphasize that these amendments will not impact existing permittees. And I do have one more general permit to update that was not included on the agenda. That is the water treatment plant general permit, the TXG 640000. It authorizes the discharge of water treatment wastes generated as a result of conventional water treatment at water treatment facilities. The renewal will replace the current permit when it expires on October 12th, 2025. EPA reviewed and approved this general permit on December 19th of last year. TCEQ anticipates publication of the notice in March of this year and holding a public public meeting in April. The major change to this general permit includes adding a requirement for discharges to be dechlorinated to less than 0.1 milligrams per liter of total residual chlorine prior to discharge when using chlorination for disinfection purposes. Sorry. And with that, those are all my updates. If there are any questions.
Thanks, Shannon. Not seeing any at the moment, but if you do have any questions, please type them in the chat. I'll go ahead and go through the last of the updates on the agenda having to do with rule projects, and specifically, there are a couple of projects here in the division that are about to hit a couple of milestones here in the near future at the February 13th Commissioner's agenda. And the first project, the dairy waste rule project, which is implementation of House Bill 692 from the previous legislative session. That one is going to agenda for consideration of proposal by the agency, and if approved, that rule packet will go out for public comment. It's expected that the comment period will go from February 28th through March 31st, and there will be a public hearing or meeting on the rule package on the last day of the comment period, March 31st. So that's coming up, and information about that will be included as it always is as backup material for the agenda as it nears. And again, that's the February 13th agenda. At the same agenda, the second rule project that I wanted to talk about is going before the commissioners for adoption. So it's further ahead than the dairy waste rules. The second project is the excess reclaimed water disposal rules, or those that are implementing Senate Bill 1289 from the previous session. If those are adopted, the expected effective date of those rules will be March 6th. So a couple things to be looking out for here in the near future. And so those are the last of the updates that we had for you today. And now are in our final question and answer session. If anything you still would like to ask. And I am seeing a question about what does excess reclaimed water mean? That's a good question, and I'll have to look at my script to answer that since I'm not intimately involved with this particular rule project. But so basically this rulemaking, like I said, is going to implement Senate Bill 1289 from the previous legislative session, and it's going to amend, or proposes to amend, certain sections of Chapter 26 of the Texas Water Code. It's going to add Section 26.02715, which we call disposal of reclaimed water to wastewater collection system. So essentially, this would allow a wastewater treatment facility that treats domestic wastewater for reuse to dispose of the treated wastewater or reclaimed water without a permit for an alternative means of disposal, if the facility disposes of the treated wastewater through a wastewater collection system, that is. To do so requires consent of the owner and operator of the wastewater collection system that will receive the treated wastewater, and consent of the owner and operator of the treatment facility that will further treat the water. So that's the gist of that rulemaking, and hopefully that answers your question, James. Any other questions folks have about this topic or any others that we discussed? And while I'll give you a little bit more time, I'll go ahead and move to the announcements before we close out. One of which is not spelled out on your agenda, but as we do each time we meet for this advisory work group, we will follow up shortly after the meeting's over, within say a week or so, with a summary of the meeting and the topics that were presented. So we're going to do that again this go around. So expect to see that in your email shortly. A summary of the meeting, and of course, this meeting is recorded as well. And I believe we'll put a link to that on our Water Quality Advisory Work Group webpage on our external website. And we have previous meetings there as well. And then lastly, the date of our next meeting will be April 15th, which I assume that might be tax day, but regardless, that's the next planned meeting, April 15th of this year at 1:30 p.m. our usual time, and expect to do that in our usual hybrid approach with folks welcome to come attend in person, or they can participate online virtually as well. And we'll be providing more details as we get closer to that meeting as far as locations here at the agency where we'll be meeting. So that wraps up the announcements. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, so I believe we can go ahead and adjourn our meeting. Thanks again to everyone who joined us, and appreciate your participation as always, and look forward to seeing you next time. And in the meantime, please do your best to stay warm, stay safe during the weather we're having, and we'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your week. Take care, everyone.